Hello, everybody. Denise here. Welcome to our Vuelta 13 Red Program Review meeting. In this opportunity, the program that we're going to be reviewing the material is Red 163, which corresponds to Lab 13. We are on time on the last day of the lab here doing the review. So thank you everyone for being here. We have Jeff from the US and Molly from the US, Isadora from Spain, Gabby from Germany, from the Netherlands, Kirge and Ninke from the Netherlands. So thank you guys for being here. And it's just really great. It's really great that we were able to do it because we did two in Lab 13, right? We did it 162. We did it also in Lab 13. Yeah. Okay, so right now we are right here on the last day, day 208. 208 of the year, and we have 157 days to go. So what we see here is the 27th of the 7th. Remember in the last red program, we worked a lot with the 26th of the 6th, remember? Which is the first day of lab 12. 26th of the 6th. And now we are on the 27th of the 7th, on the last day of lab 13, okay? Also, another thing we have today, well, the solar day is right here, 739826. And another thing that we have is 888 in the negative of the apparatus. We have 888 days to finish the apparatus. And another thing that we just went through is the LGC calendar, the total. We went from 39 because you know that in this year, the jump every day in the LGC calendar is from 15 to 15. Yes, because we are counting years from 2012 to 2026. So every day, the total of the LGC calendar shifts 15 by 15 digits. So recently we went from 39 something to 40 something. Yeah. Right now is 40089. So we can see a lot of things in relation to 8-9 recently. Like there's a lot we can find the 98 in all of the days of the solar calendar, and we're going to be there a while, right? So 98 has to do with the progression of the octave, the capacity to progress our octave. And we should always keep in mind that progressing our octaves is going to have a direct influence in the financiation of our material expression in every scale, right? That's why it's so important to always be in sync with this intention, with the purpose, right? And remember, like in the first years of the development, we would always say that first purpose, like the purpose is first, then comes the experience, right? So losing touch with the purpose, losing touch with the main intention, which is, like we could say, expanding the consciousness of the totality. We could say that would be like, in essence, precariously, that would be like the main intention, right? And then we have this whole infrastructure of the secondary unfoldment so that this can take place. So yeah, the progression of the octave, we're gonna find it after the 7 with the 3. And remember, 7 with 3 is always related to freedom and frames. Freedom, when it comes, we're only gonna have like this absolute freedom or liberty when we're dealing with the primary unfoldment, because this is where there's no existence. So there are no regulations, there are no limitations, of course. It's all infinite, perfect, and instantaneous. But there's also no matter and no energy because it doesn't exist, right? It's like an essence. But when it comes to secondary unfoldment, we're going to be dealing with all the framework, the the structure of materialization and the structure of the entorno and the different scales and everything that we have been learning, right? So that's what we can say about that 73 and then the 98, which means 73 and then 98, we can say that there's a progression of the octave, but within the regulations of the entorno. Because, and that really, like internally, it's registered by me, it's registered by like saying, okay, this is really necessary, like entering into regulations, yeah, because we want to be progressing. You know how society always talk about, oh, we need progress, and their understanding of progress is creating 20,000 skyscrapers, and that's progress for them. But when we look at progress from the solar perspective, we're going to be talking about a completely different thing, because we're talking about progressing and adding new qualities to the native octave, to the native functioning. That's what we want. And then we have 26. What is 26? Well, this is year 2026, right? And Ale has been talking a lot about the recreation of the y-axis. The recreation of the y-axis is going to have to do with the antenna of the universe, assuming a framework contract, appropriating a set of memorials from a specific entorno, and assuming a belonging to that entorno. Yes? So there's two different types of belongings there. Yeah, the belonging to the antenna of the universe and the belonging to the member of the species, which are going to be two different belongings, but they should be essentially, they should be synchronized and working together, because the part of the member of the universe has the function of orienting the member of the antenna. So that is what we can say about the solar day. And then we are really getting closer to the part of the reactives on the table. Yes, we are close to finishing, going through all the black spaces, the foundational spaces. And yeah, so we are right now on 208. Okay. All right. Katrina. Hey, yeah. So this program was recorded right after the event. Oh, no. It was before the event of the final of the World Cup. And Argentina was part of the semifinal with Spain. This was before Spain won, right? So everybody was like really excited and all. So a lot of the things that were discussed in the program had to do with the year on the jersey of Argentina. We're gonna look at that. And then she starts, of course, talking about entertainment, right? And when she talks about entertainment, of course, she's talking about the masses, right? And we should always, in our case, we should really be good at differentiating the part of, okay, when she talks about entertainment at a subatomic scale, it means that the subatomic scale is going to be entertained either constructing or destroying something, but it needs, because it has that foundational essence. Yes. So if the subatomic instance is not entertained, creating and generating at that scale, then it's going to be destructive. Okay. But that's at the subatomic level. Because, but when that part is translated into the anatomic, it turns into discipline and responsibility. Okay. So it is not the same thing to talk about entertainment in the subatomic than to talk about entertainment in the anatomic. Here she's talking about entertainment at the anatomic level because she's talking about something that it's massive, right? So she's saying, I'm going to use this massive event to extract as much entertainment as I can, education as I can. And we met with David on the cycle, right? And we saw how much we were able to extract. Like didactically, right, from this whole thing. So it is like a big, big, big resource from reality that is going to help us. Everything, it is as if everything that happens in reality is going to be very useful for us in LGC to create educational situations, right? So the subatomic scale does not work with the memory, so it needs entertainment, okay? And the type of entertainment that we're dealing with in relation to the World Cup, it's more it is a more social entertainment, right? So it's not going to be the same thing. Okay, so yeah, she said I'm gonna support myself with a set of variables that this entertainment brings us to educate ourselves in space temporal structures. Yeah. I mean, it is really brilliant. So she said, the situation of the World Cup gives me a PowerPoint that is like really luxurious PowerPoint. Because without it, it would be more difficult and more boring. Yeah. So she said, I think it's like good news. I had a little trouble with this part of like, hey, we are grown-ups. I don't think we should be entertained to learn about space temporal structures. Like in the beginning, I was like that. I was like, why do we need to be entertained? We're like adults learning about important things. But then I was like, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, this doesn't have to be opposite. Like it doesn't have to not be entertaining, right? For us to want to be interested in something. Okay. So if there's an identity at a subatomic scale, then that scale is going to be entertained with creating third dimension. Yes? That's what we were saying earlier. It's going to be entertained creating the third dimension if there's an identity at a subatomic scale. But for an identity that is purely third dimensional, then all of these, the entertainment at a social scale is going to be very useful. Here she mentioned the match between Argentina and Egypt. She's mentioning here that everything she presents on the red program, she usually makes like right before they start recording. Like she doesn't prepare. And she says this is because reality is very generous and provides me with everything that I need last minute. Kind of like what happened between Argentina and Egypt, right? Egypt was winning, and then in the last minute, Argentina twisted everything and won, right? So it's everything like last minute happening when we feel or register that things are not going very well, and Argentina like the volantazo, like the wheel going like this last minute, shifting the route. Like the Argentina is like really good at doing that. So on that, the day of that match was day 188. And she said, we were doing that and we were routing the black spaces to be able to have the criteria of stability and the criteria of density, which is what we've been working on, right? With the table, like the horizontal criteria and the vertical criteria. So 54 plus 20 is 74. Event 74, I will not abandon myself, right? Not even when I feel like I'm losing will I abandon myself. Like it's all, last minute, even when I feel like I'm failing, even when I feel like I can't do it anymore, I will not abandon myself, okay? That is like what we can withdraw from that last match. On the match, we were right under promise 20. And promise, if we want to read promise 20, we could say, I have all of the solar code to be able to provide whatever the circuit needs. Yes, the solar code, she's saying this because, of course, we are talking about 0. 2 with 0 is I have the solar code to provide the circuit with what the circuit's going to need. But that is going to imply a recreation. You know, we always talk about 10 is a creation and 20 is a recreation. And a recreation is an additional creation to what was native. We had a native situation, and when we talk about recreation, we're gonna talk about an additional creation. Okay. We're talking about an interdimensional education. We are not talking about here, of course, for a person that has a purely third dimensional identity. Because if the identity is purely third dimensional, then the only thing that that person is going to find is coincidences and numbers that close. Okay, but there's not going to be any tuning into anything. There's going to be no capacity to tune into anything, and of course, there's going to be no understanding of anything, right? Because the concepts that we're dealing with have to do with another level completely. So for us to be able to take advantage and capitalize all of this situation, we need to have the concepts that we have, right? We need to have work with the concepts. Have been working with the concepts. Okay, so here we have the jersey, right? And we have the AFA, which is a national institution in Argentina. And then we have the FIFA, which is an international institution, the international institution, and the local or national institution for Argentina. And we worked a lot with the year 1895 and 93 and the apparatus. AFA. So it's like really, we're going to start to find how extremely obvious and, well, more than obvious, evident things are becoming, because AFA is 11, 6, and 11. So it is the amount of players that we have on a football team. We have 11 players on the field and 11 players on the other team, 11 on each team. And then we have 6, which is the collective memory. And this is a year where we have been working a lot, because we have the recreation of the y-axis. And the y-axis has to do with our capacity and our being able to recognize that the memorials are appropriated and not my own. Yes? Appropriated and not mine. Because if I put on all of the memorials as if they were my own, I'm going to have a lot of confusion in my processor. Okay, so we have a collective memory, which is what we need before we enter a unified field. Inside the unified field, we're going to have a physical expression. The antenna member of the universe does not have a physical expression. The antenna member of the species does. Now, if the antenna member of the universe does not want to deal or is not dealing or fulfilling this task of orienting the member of the species, there's no connection there. There, like the flow between matter and antimatter is not going to be working. So it is as if I'm going to be cast away. I'm going to be cast away inside the unified field. But the unified field does have enough programs that are going to keep us busy in a way or entertained in a way, even if I lost my connection with the rest of the universe, the unified field is going to provide me with some programs that I can use. But if I lose the Wi-Fi with the antenna of the universe, then I am losing touch with the essential aspect, like the particular aspect of our consciousness, which is what we call subatomic scale. The physical body is a collective of particles. This is something that we've been working with quite a bit. The difference between the SO and the SE is that in the SE, there's going to be multiple collectives of particles, like little bodies. Bodies are collectives of particles. And in the SE cardinality, we're going to find a lot of collectives of particles, which can be driven by their own architects or not. We're going to find little bodies that are not connected to themselves. Yes, because they are usually, well, we can find a little bit more frequently people that don't have any beliefs, but they still want to fill it up with something, right? Even if they don't have a specific religion, they still find something to believe in, right? So finding something to believe in is going to translate into I am delegating my physical projection. I'm delegating it to an external consciousness because I don't want to deal with it. Like I don't want to deal with all of those technicalities because really all I'm interested in is my personal and my symbolic scale. And the rest I don't care. Like you can just fill it up with anything, right? But in the other configuration where we do have an architect that is driving that collective of particles, there we are talking about a connection with the universe that's going to be providing me with a particular connection. And this little vehicle is going to have a leader, and that's going to be the architect. And the architect is responsible of creating solar code, updating the unified field, and providing the capacity to interact with okay, the capacity to interact, the position in the third dimension needs to be able to interact with the architect, needs to have an interaction with the architect, okay? Now, all of these things, like hearing about these things and working with these concepts doesn't mean that we are going to automatically know how to do this. So we should not get like get frustrated or stressed if we don't know how to do this. It is just really important that slowly we add details to these understandings, and slowly there's going to come a moment where we're going to be like, oh, okay, that's what it was. But remember what the Earth is doing every day. Every day, the Earth is going and picking up little pieces of the solar radiation that the orbital has. So every day, we are doing that slowly, okay? And then when we complete 1 year, that is where we have this unit. That's why we call it a unit of code, where we can have an understanding, like a full understanding when a year has occurred, yes, of something. Right now, we're like in the middle. So we have like half of things picked up from the orbital. We still have half. But then we have the other reference, which is the apparatus. And we still have more way to go. Okay, so the year that we're going to be working with a lot today, it's really interesting because with this year, Alejandra, I don't know if I don't remember if she's done something like this before, but like the year, the flow of signals that kick-started with the year took her to a specific connection between lap 8 and lap 13, which is what we're going to be looking at. Okay, so the year, linearly speaking, 1893 is the year where the AFA is established, right? Okay. So she's saying we are on lap 13. And if we are connected to the antenna of the universe, that's going to provide Wi-Fi to the member of the species. 1331 is usually related also to Andromeda, because remember the first Charles Messier, he was observing the sky, like, I don't know, I think it was like 16th, 17th century, observing the sky with like really precarious instruments. Of course, he didn't know he was looking at Andromeda. But he identified objects in the sky, and Andromeda, the object that he identified as Andromeda, he didn't know it was Andromeda. He didn't know it was a galaxy. He named it M31. Yeah. Like the most precarious way of identifying Andromeda when we look at it like out in outer space is M31, which is 1331. Yes. A question and an answer. That's why Alejandra says 13, if we are connected to the antenna of the universe, that provides Wi-Fi to the member of the species. Now, and here she says, like, this is really interesting how she explains how Argentina's team, it seems as if they, like, when they're playing brilliantly, it's as if they have a lot of Wi-Fi. They have like a lot of Wi-Fi and a lot of connection, and they're able to anticipate, and they're playing brilliantly and all of that. But then all of a sudden, they lose the Wi-Fi. They lose the Wi-Fi and they become average players. So everybody's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, so here's the explanation. They sometimes lose Wi-Fi, okay? And then there's this example with the phones, right? When we have internet in our phones, everything works perfectly, the GPS, the videos, the pictures, and then we lose the Wi-Fi and we're like, dumb. We have a dumb phone. Now, this has to do with comings and goings of the signal. This happens also to us. Like whatever happens to our devices, our computers, our phones, it happens to us as well. This coming and going of the signal, because we're dealing with so much, like so many influences. So that's why we want our antennas to work more efficiently and more cleanly every time, so that we are able to deal with all of these influences, and that these influences don't break our signal, our Wi-Fi. But I'm sure that by now we are able to identify when our Wi-Fi is like working really well, and when it's not working so well, where I'm having like difficulty, like oh, I'm breaking up, like, yeah. The thing is that the quality of the solar code is being intercepted continuously by cosmic variables. Yeah, this is happening constantly. And of course, this is happening to us. Now, what are the cosmic variables? It means that other actors that are implemented in the field, when I am doing a brilliant move, they are also updating their positions. Cosmic variables. This is like another concept that we can detail. Cosmic variables are going to have to do with, yes, there's going to be other observers, other actors that are implemented or like compromised with the field. And when someone updates their position, then they also update their position. Yeah. So it is like a really good thing for us to be trained, because we have this resource. If we didn't have this resource, this would be pure manipulation. Yes, because we would have no capacity to respond whatsoever. We would be playing with a player that had all the advantages and all the resources, and we wouldn't have any resources to deal with that other player. But since we are becoming formed in this, then it means that we are having those resources, and we can take on that opponent. Yeah. But for us, that's gonna turn into a training. Yes, that's gonna be a training for us, because we want to get better at this, right? So yeah, cosmic variables. There's an update, like I update my position, and then there's gonna be other updates also updating their positions. Okay. The thing with Messi. This is something that she has spoken about before. Mes is month, which is a collective of days. And C is the architect. C is a particular aspect. Mes is a collective aspect. Yeah. So Mes C is going to have like a good balance between my connection like my particular connection and my connection with the collective as well. So that's why, Messi has a really good configuration when working in the field, because he's connected with himself, but he's also connected with the collective. Now, there's another like really interesting convergence between Messi's date of birth and the establishment of the Masonic Lodge. I don't know how you say that in English. Let me look it up. Yeah, Masonic Lodge or Freemasonry. The establishment of that happened on the 24th of June, and Messi was also born on the 24th of June. Okay. And what we can say here is that Messi, the gift that he has, he always says that it is a God-given gift. Yes, it is. He derivates that to an external, as if it was God-given, and there is no recognition of this particular connection, even though he has it. There is like a really specific connection that Messi has, but there is no recognition from Messi himself of that. Yeah, Freemason. Yes. So yeah, we have that, which is really, I mean, yeah, and this whole linear situation that's happening in Argentina with the all of the Israel people moving there and all. Now, what we can say here is that the Masons work with a symbolic consciousness. So Messi's interpretation of his gift, he interprets it symbolically. So he is not himself becoming responsible of that scale. He's derivating that externally. So, okay, what we're doing here is that we are focused in learning space-temporal structures. That's what we are focused doing here. And we are using a global phenomenon and a massive phenomenon to learn how the space-temporal structures synchronize. Okay, so here we have year 1893, which is the Asume year of Apparatus 474. Asume year of Apparatus 474. Now, something that I thought was really interesting about this is that we've been working with Apparatus 373, 474, and 575. Do you guys remember that? 373 is the apparatus that is linked to the conquest of paradise. Yes, the capacity to generate value to the third dimension. The argumentation or of the value of the third dimension, 373. And then we have 474, which is what we're going to do that right now. And then 575 with the whole Rivadavia flow of signals. 575 is putting into value, putting reality into value, creating value for reality. That's Apparatus 575. 373 is creating value for the third dimension. Okay. So now 474 is going to be the instantaneous, encendido, like ignition, the instantaneous ignition to be able to navigate between all of the destinies, between all of the designs. 4-4. Now, when she says the instantaneous ignition, that's because 7 is in the middle. So it's going to be instantaneous. The instantaneous ignition to be able to navigate between all of the designs and all of the destinies. Because all of the destinies need to be turned on, because that's what's going to provide us with the convergence. all of the destinies need to be turned on and they need to be synchronized. Okay, so 474 is going to bring a capacity to navigate like in the instant between all of the designs. Okay, so it's going to provide us with this is exactly what Messi does. Like he does this very well. In the instant, he's able to read all of the designs, all of the destinations, but it's like instantaneous. So his capacity to respond is also instantaneous and very precise. That's what 474 provides for us, okay? And then the detail of year 1893 is going to be something else. Oh, another thing is that lab 1331, what we were talking about, Andromeda, M31 and all. But also another thing we have is that the column 31 is the column where we can find Toganeson. Yes, and Toganeson is what triggers all of the other promises. Now she says 13 is something that's going to play in the Ro, while 31 is going to play in the Ri. So 13 is going to be like, okay, there's like a question that is going to be opened. Remember, like also in the very beginning, the question opens a space. Yeah, when we have a question, technically speaking, is not like, oh, why is the sky blue? Not necessarily. A question is a space that is opened up. Yes. Mainly, it doesn't necessarily have to have a content. When we talk about a question, structurally speaking, it doesn't necessarily have to have a content. It is just a space that is open. It's what allows the third dimension to exist because it opens a space and it separates things. It separates the question from the answer. Okay, now 31 is going to be a resource that's going to be like, if there's an open question, there's going to be a flow, which is going to be 31. Yes, a flow that is going to be constantly working with that question. But if we want the third dimension to remain working, then we have to, that's why Ale talks a lot about the argumentation of the third dimension. Yeah, we need to work on the argumentation of the third dimension so that is open, so that remains open, that opening. If not, the question closes. If we had all the answers all together, we would collapse into non-existence again. So it is good that we have this, because over here, for us to be able to have a linear experience, we need to have a separation between those things. Okay, this apparatus works with year 1896. So she says, this is the inscription in the public memory. There's an inscription of all of this in the public memory. So slowly, all of these things that we have been working on in the LGC, they're going to become available publicly. I mean, the thing is that if they don't have the itch, they're not going to be able to reason or argument the way that we are doing it, but they're going to be able to use it. Okay. So she says, it all becomes much more entertaining. The interaction in the unified field is going to become more entertaining, because instead of everything being stereotypicalized inside the memory, instead of that, we're going to be having each antenna playing their own position and updating, even though they can't argument it. Like, it is as if there's an enabling of more functions in the public memory that the members of the species are going to be able to use. And they're going to, the way that they're going to explain that to themselves and argument that is going to vary according to each person's configurations and scopes. But as I have said before, I have seen people are like people's arguments, people that have a purely third dimensional profile, their arguments, some of those arguments are quite good. Yeah. So there's like progress there. Like I think these people are gonna enter into resonance at some point, because I saw this guy create, and Alejandra shared with us this TikTok. There was this guy, he was a physicist, and he was argumenting from a third dimensional perspective the event horizon and the primary unfoldment. He didn't call it like that, but he like reasoned and got to that conclusion like by himself. And I was like, oh my God, that's literally, he was explaining to himself the event horizon and the primary unfoldment, and the different, like that, the fact that the secondary unfoldment, we're talking about materialization and antimatter and non-existence and all of that. So it was really, really impressive. Okay, so this is what she's talking about here. Okay, so the fact that we are argumenting, or in a way activating this apparatus, that's what she's talking about. Okay, now we're going to look at the metrics of the day of the final of the World Cup, which was the 19th of July, day 200 of the year. And the solar day was 739818. And we have other metrics here, so we're going to look at that. Day 200. But here is like the really impressive part. I couldn't believe it. We have year 1893 in here. In the solar day where the final game of the World Cup took place, we have that year from left to right. The assumed year of Apparatus 474. Okay. Okay. Here she talks about 87, which is Francio, and how we put it on the 8th level of the table, because I want to have the chance to inhabit the track before I am, like, I want to be able to have space to receive or to process before I have the impact directly in my gravitational octave. That's why we do that. But she does she talks about this constantly, and it's really important that we have that. We add details to that. The Google day 46222, and the reading of that is 46222 is I'm going to be able to use all of the circuits that are going to be inside the collective design. 4 with 6, we're talking about a collective design. It is a design that has a connection with the collective memory. So we have all of the circuits inside the collective memory using, that's really good for us. Like, it's gonna make us really good players inside the field, because we're gonna be able to read each other. 474 is like not only that, what she said, like the ignition of the instant and our capacity to navigate with all of the designs and all of that, but like our capacity also to value the different designs, because it's enriching. Because if we stay in our biases and our preferences, it's really boring. And not only is it boring, but it's not going to be very good for my functioning if I stay only in my preferences. I'm not going to be able to navigate all of the destinies. So having all of the circuits to be inside the collective design is like a really good thing. Okay. And these are functions that are being enabled at the level of the structure. what we are doing is that we are sequencing, we're trying to follow what the structure is doing, what the structure is enabling. Okay, so like this is really good news for everybody in general. Hopefully we are able to see, and honestly I can see it, and sometimes we want it to be like really radical, the change, right? We want all these people to be gone and all of that, but remember that the transition, the more slow it is, the more elegant it is, the better. We don't want the change to be abrupt because it would be too destructive. So the changes are subtle, but they're there. If we are able to focus and observe from a different place and not interpret from the collective and social area, we're going to be able to see and observe that these changes are actually taking place. Okay, so now we're going to be, this part gets very, very technical because we begin with the year 1893. In that year, we can see 8, 9, and 13. So there's an update of lap 13 from lap 8. That is what Alejandra arguments. And we're going to see this later. But that's what Alejandra arguments, okay? From lap 8, there's a connection to lap 13, and there's an update between that. Now, the first day of lap 13 is solar day 739811. What do we have here? We have Oganesón. Yeah? So, from the first day of lap 13, if we go back 75 days, we're going to find Oganesón, 118. From day 118 to the first day of lap 13, we're going to find 75 days. Okay, what's 75? We're very close to event 75. Okay, event 75, which is many things. We could, the administration of the gravitational logic, or the capacity. It is like a credential. 5-7 is like a credential, you guys. It's a credential to administrate our gravitational position. That's why event 75 is so important. It's like it's really important. Okay, so from day 118, which is Oganesón is the last element that we have on the table. It is as if we're saying, this is all I have. The octave of the context has a specific scope, and that's all we have. Yes, the rest we have too. We need connection with antimatter to be able to argument the rest. Okay, so that's Oganesón. From 118 to the first day of lap 13, we have 75 days, okay? Now, we are in Aparatus 507. And we have event 75 in the Asimila year of Aparatus 507, which is 444 years from the year of the anomaly, which wasn't allowing us to be able to assimilate the occurred. And if we didn't have the capacity to assimilate the occurred, we wouldn't have been able, or we couldn't be able to generate any improvements to the structure. Okay, so we would be like on a loop until we self-destructed. So when we talk about Apparatus 507, she says the interstellar proposal, like the proposal from the interstellar connection is going to be, let's see, 1 second. Okay, the proposal 507. Are we going to be able to keep the balance between update and stability? Because the third dimension needs both of those things. It needs update and it needs stability. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is from a fifth dimensional perspective, because we can't generate that only from inside the third dimension. There needs to be a fifth dimensional perspective so that we are able to keep the balance between stability and update, so that we don't get too much update and then we are in over our heads, or too much stability that we can't update. That's why we call it dynamic stability. We are entering into an era of dynamic stability, and we are being trained to be able to deal with that. Because if not, we would be all the time being carried away by the waves of existence like this. Yes, if we weren't being formed in what we're being formed. This is a training. What we're experiencing right now, in our case, that we have the resonance, is a formation, is a training. The third dimension requires stability, and the fifth dimension requires the update. So are we going to be able to synchronize these two things? If we are able to anticipate, yes. And what's going to provide us with the capacity to anticipate? Well, our antenna. And what's going to calibrate our antenna? The clarity of the concepts. Okay. Okay, so she says, how did Alejandra anticipate? Well, she is having this amazing instruction. One second, I didn't connect my computer. Oh, we're barely on page 5. It's really dense. Okay. Now, here we're going to go into that part of the connection between lap 8 and the capacity to update lap 13. Okay. Now, we can see here 8, 9, and 13. Lap 8 and the capacity to update lap 13. Why are we going to, I mean, we are not going, we are following, we are following the flow of signals, because 75 days before the first day of lap 13, we find day 118 of the year. Yes, so, but also on that year, we find the connection between lap 8 and lap 13. Because on lap 8, we find day 118. Lap 8 has day 118. Okay. And this year's solar day for day 118 was 739736. 739736. Okay. So on the first day of the lap 13, which is when the program was recorded, 75 days had passed since that solar day. And what is lap 13? The first day of lap 13 is going to be the RAM logic of the functioning of someone else who is not me. Okay? Because we're talking about the second lap of the other who is not me. And 2 is related to function. So she says, the RAM logic of the functioning of someone else who isn't me. That's like the first day of lap 13. And 57 days from solar day 739736. Okay, now, now we want to have a good map of the field. That's why we love Messi so much, because he shows us on the field that he's really connected with himself and really connected with others. So he is able to anticipate. He's able to be very precise. Okay. So all of these things, like all of these technicalities, have to do with the credentials that I'm gonna have, because the thing is, like, it's really hard for me to talk about 57, because it's like I have it in my understanding, but it's like really hard to explain. But it is a credential. It is a credential that is going to give us the capacity to administrate very, very well our gravitational position. Okay? That's where she talks about the credentials here. Those credentials, I have to take them and put them in the field. Put them in the field so that my central nervous system can keep me updated in the mapping of the field. The field is mutating constantly. Remember, dynamic stability. It's mutating constantly. So my architect, my radar, my antenna, my preference, all of those things need to be synchronized so that I am able to manage my gravitational position in a most elegant way without bumping into each other all the time and having all these frictions and all of that. Yes. Okay. So here I resumed it or put it all together. Day 118 of the year is in lab 8. The first day of lab 13, we have 118 also on the solar day. The difference between the first day of lab 13, which is 193, and day 118 is 75. Yeah. So 7557 has to do with the credentials that we're going to have, and it's going to depend each one with their own scope. To work or be anticipated inside the field and navigate through all of those different destinies and designs. I know it's really, really abstract and really, really technical. Like we could spend a lot of time here just looking at it more closely. What I try to do is just, the overview so that we have the notion. But of course, it's going to be quite difficult to grasp it deeply and fully as Alejandra does. We try, we do our best because we are babies in this. We are barely learning how to do all of these things. So of course it's going to be like, what? But it's like if we look at it very like with detail and with a lot of focus, you see the connection. Like everything is connected and properly argumented. It's nothing, none of this is arbitrary. It's not symbolic at all. It is completely technical and every single thing is argumented, okay? Okay, so the connection between lab 13, because it's the second lap of the other, right? We are entering the second 11 laps, and now we have to deal with others. And other people's captation, other people's function, other people's action, all of that. So what's going to happen in lap 18? The connection between lap 18 and lap 13 is going to be the capacity to anticipate what the field is going to ask of me in lap 13. So in lap 8, we're going to be anticipating because we have day 118, okay? Because it is the octave of the context. In lap 8, we're going to be preparing our octave for what the field is going to ask of me in lap 13. I think that's a little better. I think that was a little bit more clear. Okay. So she says, lap 13 was updated in lap 8. There was an anticipation. There's a connection there. So then she says, what was Alejandra doing on day 118? On the 28th of April of 2026, she was on a cruise in el Río de la Plata in Argentina. Río de la Plata is the river of the silver. That's like the direct translation. La Plata, that's what it's called, the river La Plata. Yes, the river is called Silver, the Silver River. So she was there. On that day, she was there. And what is Plata? 47. 4774 Wolframio. Again, I will not abandon myself. Wolframio is recognizing that it is me. I am the one that is orienting myself inside the field. Okay, so I need to have this connection enabled or recognized so that I can have a more precise connection and functioning inside the field. Okay, so between day 118 and the day of the first day of lap 13, which is the RAM logic of the functioning of the other who is not me. The RAM functioning of the other who is not me. Okay, between those 2 days, we have 75 days. And we are previous to event 75. So she says, all of this is giving me all the credentials I need to provide event 75, to be the professor of event 75. This is like how Alejandra arguments that she can be the giver of event 75. Okay. So it's like a lot. It's like a lot. Event 75 is like a lot, you guys. So, okay, from here and on, what we are going to be working with, I mean, we've been preparing to deal with this, is la ley del bimetalismo. In Argentina, there's a law that passed, I think it was 1881. 1881, okay? There was a law called, let me just get the proper translation. Bimetallic standard. Bimetallic standard, okay? It has to do with the economy. I'm going to put it here in the chat. Or bimetallism law, okay? Bimetallism law is going to have to do with integrating into the economy the standard of gold and the standard of silver. Okay, it has to do with that. Gold and silver in the economy, linearly speaking. We use this metric a lot in the LGC, which is the 5th of November of 1881. Yes, that was when this law was passed. Now, to the day where the World Cup ends, there's going to be 5285 days from this date. From the bimetallism law to the day of the final of the World Cup, we have 5285 days. What do we have here? 1582. 1582. What year is that? The Assimila year of Apparatus 396. So Apparatus 396 has been used, oh my goodness, to manipulate the solar code in a way. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's amazing. Okay, so the bimetallism law, bimetallic law, is very important interdimensionally because gold fulfills a function with my antenna of the universe. I fish, or I am in contact with interstellar code, and I can be in contact with like other stars that have created sophisticated materialization codes, which is what we want, what we are aspiring right now. Our aspiration as solar consciousness is to have a sophisticated code of materialization. Yes. And that's what we are experiencing right now. And it's so hard to believe because we never thought that would be possible. Okay, so we have that belonging. Okay, my antenna of the universe is going to have that belonging. And I am going to be in contact with other occurrences, interstellar occurrences. Okay. The thing is that if we are only identified as members of the species and dealing with the frozen memory, which is this interference with Apparatus 396, froze our memorials, that was like an attempt to disconnect us from the cosmos, yes, from our antenna of the universe, so that we were only identified with the memorials and we were unable to update and to provide any new tracks or any new potentials to the entorno, which is something that, because that's at this point, that's a potential for the human species to provide new potentials to the earth. That's what we're learning about ourselves. So recognizing these belongings is going to be slowly enabling us to learn how to do that. But the structure is only going to give us those credentials if we are following strict solar code. If the solar code doesn't do the okay, then it's going to be like, no. Because if we pull an occurrence without it passing through the solar code, it's going to generate a lot of inconsistencies. Okay, so this is like really, really, really important. And for me, it's something that I have been working a lot lately. When we're working with LGC, we cannot operate with our preference. We cannot operate with our preference. Because imagine if you put a preference to your antenna to the universe. I mean, it's not very, we shouldn't be doing that. It's like, oh, the flow of signals, I am only going to take what I like. And what I don't like, I'm just going to leave it out. Oh, how are you going to put a preference to the antenna of the universe? That's a confusion between belongings. Yes, the one that has preference and that is okay to have a preference because it has the most restrictions is a member of the species. There I can have my own preferences. I only want cherry ice cream. But when I am working with the improvement of the solar code, imagine if everything is made out of cherry because that's my preference. No, I don't want to put a preference in my antenna to the universe because I want variety. I want to be able to be oriented. If my antenna of the universe is more diverse, I am going to be able to provide way more orientation to my projection, my member of the species. But if I have a preference in my antenna of the universe, my poor member of the species is not going to have a very good time experience because it's not going to be oriented. There's preference everywhere. Okay. Okay, now if I'm only connected to the memorials, the requirements are much lower. Yes, they're like the demands or the the requirements from the structure are gonna be low because everything is there, like everything is given, right? Whatever signals I am in contact with or any stimulations I have, I'm gonna be looking for answers in the collective field, and I'm not gonna trouble myself with anything. I'm just gonna find whatever's in the manuals and that's it. So the requirements are lower. And I can even forget that I belong to the universe. It doesn't matter. No? But Alex says, what I want us to get back is that spark. Yes, the spark. The spark has to do with a belonging that's prior to the species. The spark updates and there's a generation of a new parameter. The spark provides a new parameter because it updates, but it has to do with a belonging that is prior to the species. Now, there's another belonging to the programs of the planet that is giving me the opportunity to be physically manifested. Yes, that's another belonging. So but these are two different things. And I have to work, and we've been working, and we are going to be working with this all year because we're talking about the recreation of the y-axis. Okay. Okay, so the important thing is to not mix these things, not confuse them, not contaminate them, don't fusion them, because they both do different things. And we're not trying to be evil here and being like, oh, you can't have a preference. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, 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 because everybody is going to do whatever they want with the resource, because there's no police of LGC. There's no police of LGC. And LGC is not exclusive. LGC is inclusive. And everybody's going to be like, okay, I'm going to do whatever with the signal, and nobody's going to tell you not to. But what we're doing here is, because the intention here is to help each particle gain autarchy in the unified field, autarquía. So you can't be mad for the solar consciousness training us to have autarchy in the unified field. The thing is that there are so many details that we have to accept, recognize, reason, all of that. Okay, so gold works on that level, and silver works and modulates that. Gold, we're talking about this interaction, interstellar interaction with occurrences from stars that have a more sophisticated code of materialization. Yes, like coming into contact with that, it's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Like sometimes when I am working with this and talking with you guys about all of this, and I'm like, what I can't believe the things that I say that we are talking about, that we are discussing. Really, I'm like, what are we doing, you guys? It's really insane. So, okay, that's another thing. That's another topic. Okay, so silver is going to have the function of modulating that. Yes, we want to modulate that so that I am able to administrate my destination in raw. Okay. And then we have the silver string. Remember the silver string? Mystically speaking, like I said, I don't really know what that means mystically, but the silver string is like, okay, I have a connection inside the unified field, but I also want to have a connection outside so that I can guide myself from outside the field, which is wolframio. Okay. Event 74, I will not abandon myself. Okay, Argentina. The name of Argentina comes from silver, argentum in Latin. Argentina, the name of the country, is named after the word silver in Latin. Okay. So Alice, like, why are we like, we shouldn't be surprised that Argentina is the one teaching us to do all of that, to regain our connection. She says, it is not weird that I do this. It would be weird that I didn't do this. Now, okay, yes, we have a belonging to the species, but remember, we have a previous belonging, which is to the universe. Now, careful with projecting symbolic consciousness onto the universe, like what we do, what humans love to do, and look at the universe and, I don't know, just put it into the sardine box. Like take the whole universe and put it inside the sardine box. No, the universe is highly, 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 strictly technical. Now, we've talked about this a lot. We do have a symbolic license, but that has to do with our preferences, and that's okay. We can use our symbolic licenses, but leave it in the scale that it belongs to. We don't want to project our symbolic licenses onto parts of the structure that are strict and technical and hard sciences. Okay, because what we're doing here is hard sciences. We are creating a hard science, establishing the science of space-time. And here's where Alice says, if I apply a preference to my antenna of the universe, the cosmos is going to start playing with me. And they are playful. They are playful. Because if I have a preference in my antenna, I'm not going to be able to anticipate other players out there because I have a preference in my antenna. That's highly not advisable. But like we said, this is, if you want to put a preference to your antenna, well, someone's going to be playing with you. Because we want to nourish our radar. Nourishing our radar is allowing our antenna, because there's the function of the radar, our antenna has a function, which is the radar. So the radar is going to be mapping. Remember when there's a plane, or all these radars that we see in movies a lot? That's there, someone's flying some kind of a spaceship, and there's a radar, and they can detect. They can detect what's close by. Okay, we want to do that. We want to nourish our radar so that we are able to identify what's around us. If not, we're not going to be able to anticipate. We're not going to be able to have a proper function inside the field. Now, don't get too don't get stuck on your preference. Okay, that's not. And recently, I was in a conversation and I saw myself speaking from my preference, right? I saw myself speaking from my preference, and I was like, that's so boring. I thought that my own preference was boring. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, my own preference is for me, but not for others. I don't think that my preference is exciting for other people. You know, that's what I was thinking to myself. I was like, I mean, maybe I really like, for example, I love my collection of ceramic cats, and I have like 200 different kinds. And then my friend comes to my house, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about my collection of ceramic cats all day. And I'm so excited. And my friend's like, okay, I mean, they're pretty, but can we do something else? So that was like a lesson that I taught myself. I feel like I was like, oh my God, no. I have to, like, when I'm talking to somebody else, I have to like lower the level of my preferences. I want to do that. Okay. We're talking to, here we are speaking to people that have the itch, okay? And that are interested in space-temporal structures, because there's going to be people that are really comfortable in their in the licenses of, not in their ignorance, that sounds disrespectful, but they're the ignorance licenses, which we all have, okay? We all have a certain level of ignorance licenses, because we have our all, ALL, which is going to be our interpretation of totality, but it's not going to be totality because I am a fraction. Yes, I identify with the fraction, so that comes with ignorance licenses. But there's going to be some that are going to have like a wider ignorance license, and they're comfortable there with just being human, and that's the only thing that attracts them. Now, whoever is also human, not only human, is going to have this observer that's going to be feeding and nourishing the radar. And that's going to translate into a deeper connection, in our capacity to administrate the third dimension and the third dimensional position. What we want to accomplish with all of this is the improvement of our administration and our gravitational position, and our position in the third dimension, which is event 57. Improving our capacity to administrate our gravitational position. That's why we have 74 before 75, because we want to recognize that it is me guiding me from another instance, 74. And then we have 75, and that is another capacity to administrate. Okay, back to the bimetallism law in Argentina. Here she says that the moment that Alejandra presented this in the RED program, in a previous RED program, there was a date in the government page, and the date was manipulated. Okay, someone changed the date when this law was passed. Okay, someone manipulated that, but there were physical registrations of that, so that's why we know it's the 5th of November. Okay, so the 5th of November is the date that we use for the reference of the bimetallic law. Okay, bimetallic, we're talking about gold and silver. So year 1881, we're talking about the administration of the context in the protocol of chaos and control, or the protocol of chaos and control of 11. Okay, the administration of the context, because it's 511, in its protocol of chaos and control. So this is like really, really important. That's why Alejandra says this is really important, interdimensionally speaking. The solar day here, this is like also really interesting to see, because the solar day of that date, look at it. Six, 8, 6, 9, 6, 7. So we have the particular scale synchronizing with the memorials. Each point in the particular scale connecting with the memorials of the container. Tuk, 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 tuk. So that we have synchronicity. So that we have this generation, the updates, the foundational aspects according to what the entorno can support. And when we talk about entorno, let's go back to the digital construction of the solar system. Okay, what the system can support. Really important here. So that we don't have more updates than the system is able to support. So here she says, the collective memory, there's a scaffolding of the collective memory from the subatomic scale. So there is an anchoring to be able to fulfill this role. And so that this is available for everybody, not for just a couple of smart asses. Yes, we want to. This is like, I think this was one of my favorite parts that Alejandra said in the program. She is wait, I have to find. Democratize? Okay. Democratize. Ale is democratizing this scale of consciousness, so that not only a few have access to this, but everybody has access to this. This is real democracy. Okay, this is like the real democracy. That's what Alejandra is doing in the third dimension. That's what we cannot actually call democracy, because over here, democracy doesn't really exist. But democracy can exist at that level. Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. Okay. Now back to the number of days from the 5th of November of 1881 to the end of the World Cup. We have this everywhere. Okay. Again, I mean, I think the Aparatus 396 is just used for everything, you guys. Everything is just so amazingly codified and just programmed. Yes, because we're talking about the solar consciousness. And the solar consciousness, the solar code had all of these, like in its codification, it had tried to anticipate itself for what was coming, yes, for what it was going to be facing. But we had all these interferences. The apparatus 396, which the solar consciousness was using for so many things, had been interfered for others, for other things, for diversion of the solar purpose. Now, again, this is an assimila year, you guys. So what are we assimilating? Gold, the connection of gold is going to give us access to updates of the cosmos that are not yet integrated to the solar code. Updates that are not yet integrated to the solar code. Now, when we apply those updates in the unified field, we alter the configuration of PLATA or of silver inside the third dimensional configuration of our solar system. I mean, do you want a task for Asimila? That's like a huge task for Asimila year. 444 years after 1582. To assimilate what? That we have a potential to access updates of the cosmos that are not yet integrated in the solar code, apply them in the unified field, alter the connection of silver of the third dimensional configuration of the solar system. Now, the injection of chaos to the memory of the system of the third dimension. Chaos is simply something that is not organized inside the solar code yet. That's why we talk a lot about protocol of chaos and control. So chaos is going to chaos. Okay, it is as if we're going to be okay if we are working now, including our primary connection to the universe. We're going to be dealing with this chaotic aspect all the time. Yes. Now, the thing is that I want to be able to manage that chaos instantaneously in my re-axis so that my central nervous system can take the track, the updated track. And that's going to be Wi-Fi. So the re-axis with a recognized belonging with a member of the species, well, I'm going to be, it's a perception of chaos. It's a perception of chaos because we are coming into contact with occurrences that are not in the Ol of Sol order list of Sol yet. Okay, so this formation is like, okay, maybe in the coming years, this is what we want to learn to do. This is what providing support to the solar code is from the third dimension, from inside the third dimension. That's why Alejandra says that this is like the embassy of the fourth dimension inside the third. Okay, now back to apparatus 396. We have to become professionals with this apparatus. And we go this because we're following the flow of signals of this, right? This is what we are following. This. So this flow of signals is going to take us, well, this and then this is going to take us to apparatus 396. Now, 1581, the mind of the context, like our connection or our capacity to use the mind of the context was interfered. But we need to recover connection with the mind of the context because it's the reference to manage the update of the collective memory. The collective memory needs to have a capacity to update. It can't be frozen. It needs to have a capacity to update, because if it doesn't update, we lose financiation to continue to exist. So the mind of the context is the reference to manage the updates of the collective memory. So we have base 12, which is external influences that I'm going to be coming in contact with. And then base 21 is going to be my capacity to respond and stabilize those influences. If I'm able to capitalize them, if I'm able to pass them through the solar code or not. But how am I going to be able to pass them through the solar code? Only if I have clave de sol, concepts in clave de sol. If not, there's no way. Like, the structure is not going to allow, it's not going to be giving me these credentials. These credentials are not going to be enabled if I don't have enough resources to do it, of course. It is as if the bar is set really high for us, you guys, and we have to be up to that. Then we have 1583 over here, right? Okay. 1581 is the mind of the context that we're going to need to manage the updates of the collective memory. And then we have 1582, which is going to be what we said about base 12 and base 21. And then 1583, we have 1358 inside 13, which is going to be my the question answer. 1331 is going to be question and answer. That's going to happen in my consciousness. And that's going to be providing the capacity to administrate the model, 1584. So we can find mind doing different things for the management of the collective memory, the update of the collective memory. There's just so much to unfold here. Like, we could stay here a while, you guys.
Yeah, actually, a question on that, if it says it in there or if you know otherwise, is the connection to the missing 10 days, right? Because that was 1582, so it's in that apparatus.
Yes, that's why we use, that is the apparatus of the anomaly.
Right.
Because it was when we talk about the interference or the intervention of apparatus 396, that's what we're talking about, the missing 10 days, specifically inside year 1582. So that's why we always say, like, year 2026 is so important, because we are 444 years in difference. And we need that capacity to interact freely with enough resources with other designs, so that we are able to better manage our gravitational position. Imagine if everybody's doing that. Like, we are all mapping ourselves, we're mapping each other, we're mapping the entorno. We have this amazing interdimensional connection. Imagine what the third dimension is going to look like when we achieve that. That's like a real reason and motivation to continue to exist, right? Okay, so here we have it. What she's been talking about, not just with other metrics. The solar day of the end of the World Cup and the connection between those two things. So why? The thing is that the flow of signal is guiding us to the things that we have to reason at a specific moment in a specific time. Yes, we want to be reasoning these things because the opportunities are in real time. So it is like we are being educated in anticipation, but also the opportunities for that, for the preparation of that anticipatory system are in real time. That's why, like, we cannot be distracted with other things if we have this role. Yes, we have to be very much immersed in the signal so that we are fully taking advantage of the opportunity. If not, it's just going to be like, kind of, sort of like, I kind of get it. Maybe it is, maybe not. Maybe I like this, maybe I don't like this. So, because LGC, we're not talking about the human. It doesn't have to do with the human or the member of the species. It has to do with the connection to the universe and the primary resources. That's why it's like really important to not put a preference into that. Yes, when we're learning LGC, we cannot apply preferences. Well, it's advice. I would advise. I wouldn't advise that. Okay, great. Okay, Apparatus 571. Where did she get Apparatus 5471? Oh, yeah. The law of bimetallism happened inside Apparatus 471. Assume a year of Apparatus 471. The reading of Apparatus 471 is the management of the instantaneous update of the anatomical destination. Instantaneous update of the anatomical destination. Okay, anatomical destination is similar to like anatomic projection or gravitational position. Yeah, and that position, when we enter into this dynamic stability, and if we are working in our belongings to the universe, we're gonna be facing constantly instantaneous updates. So I want to be able to have some sort of management of that. And that's what Apparatus 471 provides, which is where we find year 1881. Okay, we're gonna enter into the creation of the city of La Plata in Argentina. Like, it's really interesting too. But we are going to go to a break and we'll be right back, okay? Okay, we are loading, nourishing, recognizing our belonging to the cosmos. Now, the thing is that we don't know how, when, or where all of these updates are going to be expressing themselves on the field, okay? That's why we can't plan. Here in LGC, we can't plan. Because this is a development in the RI. These people, I don't want to say too much of the names because YouTube identifies it and then they want to block us. But you know who I'm talking about. They work with the symbolic consciousness, and they work with these mechanisms to try and control the collective memories and all of that, right? There is like an attempt of writing or overriding on the collective symbolic consciousness. But this is based in raw. What we're doing is not based in raw. So Ale says, that's why we're not gonna say the full word, but the M word. That's why we are gonna begin talking about La Ciudad de La Plata, because La Ciudad de La Plata was designed and implemented by them. Okay. And Ale says, I have them on my site, I see them, but they don't see me. So here this is La Ciudad de La Plata, which is a very structured, like a very well-designed city, okay, in Argentina. And I looked it up. So they had a big influence in the creation of the city. Now, the city has in the middle of in the like plaza, or I don't know, in a historical place of the city, we can find a badge where we have, I don't know what it says, I don't remember, because at some point Alejandra shared the photo of the badge, but I don't remember like the exact words. It's probably something that has to do with the foundation of the city. But the thing is that that exact same text is in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese, and in French in this order. Like in these, it is in like a quadrant, and we find the specific languages in each quadrant, okay? This is something that we can find physically in the city of La Plata, okay? So in the semifinal, this is like a configuration. We're talking about those people that designed the city had like an idea of configuring the functioning of La Plata inside of Argentina, okay? And this was their idea. But then Alejandra says that in the semifinal of the World Cup, we have Spain, France, England, okay? Spain, France, and England, but we don't have Portugal or even Brazil. But we do have Argentina in the semifinal. So instead of having either Brazil or Portugal, which was the pre-preparation of the people who designed that city, Alejandra says, okay, here we have a weird, something that they didn't expect. We have Argentina in the semifinal, okay? So of course, we're not talking about the World Cup. We're talking about space-temporal structures, okay? So Alejandra says, here is where we can see that LGC is it's having an affectation into what those people are trying to fabricate artificially in the imaginary of the collective. Yes, there's an attempt of a fabrication of a sort of like a script inside the imaginary collective. But there's something else that they were not contemplating because it's not within their reach. And here we're talking about the solar consciousness and the LGC signal, of course. So the reading that Alejandra gives of this is that the space-temporal structures are dominating the position. So this is an instruction to democratize the social access of the solar consciousness. This is an instruction to democratize the social access of the solar consciousness. I love that. I love that. I love that. Okay, 1582 is the intersection between the shift between the Julian calendar and the Gregorian. There's an interruption in lap 18. We know this, where we jump from the 4th of October to the 15th of October. Okay, so those 10 days break the linear capacity of the people that come here and are trying to be oriented where their only orientation mechanism is whatever's inside the collective memory. So for the people that their only reference is the collective memory, this breakage of the 10 days gives us an extreme disorientation inside the field. Yes, all these levels of confusion and disorientation and all of these disbalances that we can see in society are because there's a linear breakage with the removal of these 10 days. Okay, so what we are learning or want to learn to do is work in the capacity to be able to administrate every dimensional instance. Interdimensional administration. We want to learn how to do that. Yes, because we have the interest. Like we always say, it's not because we are special. No, it's because we are interested in it. Whoever's interested in it can learn it. That is like the only difference. I have appetite. I am interested in learning it. Okay, there it is. Yes, it is not like we are special or chosen. So yeah, it is a formation in the capacity to administrate, have an administration of like different dimensional instances. So here Alejandra shares, I don't know if she shared this before or not, but she's been sharing it, of course, within the 7011 group. And this is like the first attempt or treatment that Alejandra provided to the 10 missing days. Okay, this is like the first one that she shared, and I am native to lap 18, so she shared it specifically in the chat of lap 18. Oh, Gavi's in it too, in the lap 18 of 7011. Yes, remember Gavi? 2023, 13th of December 2023. So here we have the 3rd of October of 1582 and the 4th of October of 1582. And then from the 4th, it jumps directly to the 15th. So what Alejandra did is she used the 3rd and the 4th as support of those 10 days that were not properly documented. Okay, so she uses the 4th day of lap 18, which is the 3rd of October of 1582, and she divides the 10 missing days into 5 and 5, and she supports the first 5 days, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and supports them on the 3rd of October. And then the other 5 days, which is the 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, supports them on the 4th of October. Okay, so this is like the first treatment that she does to that disruption. This is an update. This is the first update, and then we had a second update. No, wait. That's the same thing. This is the second update. Why did I put it twice? Here. So this is the first update, which was the 13th of December 2023. And she says, this instruction has provided me with a capacity to comprehend the dilemma in the solar code. Okay, the capacity to comprehend the dilemma of the solar code. That's why she provided the treatment that she was able to provide on that given instance, because in that instance, we didn't have the table yet. So this is like when she was able to provide treatment to this, she did it in the way that she could with the resources that we had in that specific moment of the development. Now we have the table. Okay. But it is important that we understand the different treatments that we provided to that. And then we have the update of the 7th of April of 2024, which is what we've been working with since then, because on that date, we already had the table. Yeah, so we assigned the conceptual spaces from the table to those days on lab 18. So it is as if, okay, we are able to provide a better treatment to that inside Calendaria. So like the lab, it is observed, even if it's not like the best treatment, or even if we're not able to fully understand it, there is a like a treatment of the situation. Like I am taking care of the situation as best as I can. Like it doesn't matter if my resources are precarious. I am doing the best I can to provide that support to the solar code. Yes, even if it seems like very little what I'm doing. But in Alejandra's case, because she said the instruction has provided me the capacity to comprehend the dilemma in the solar code. Okay, so she was able to provide this assistance. Okay, so October 9th of 2025, which is when this update happened. Meaning lap 18 of 2025, yes. The 9th of October of 2025 is lap 18 of 2025, which is the year where we have this last update. The days of life of Alejandra, 2396. Okay. And this is 443 years on top of that year, because this year is 444. So last year it was 443. And 443 is private port. Yes, private port. So 2023 is the 2025, sorry. The capacity to update the logical circuit that's going to enter my central nervous system. Meaning, providing the capacity to have a private port, so that not everything is just like public and that everything is open and everything can come in. No. Private port. Private port. I have a private port through which I am able to manage internally, like manage my situations internally. Okay. So Alejandra says, I am showing you my work, which was on a first instance, it was symbolic. Yes. But then she shows it technically, algorithmically and technically with the field included. Yes. So first, it is in a way symbolic, because we could say it is only supported by resonance because there is like no convergence with the field yet. But when the field takes it and synchronizes it, like it includes it in the algorithm, then that's where we find the hyperconvergence. Okay. Okay, now the 10th of the 10th of 2025. Remember that on the last program, she told us there was like the situation. Okay, let me remember. It was 58950. Yes, on the 10th of the 10th of 2026, the wheat says 58950, which is 50, and 598, which is the amparo, frecuencia de amparo. How do you say amparo in English? The thing is that, like, I don't know if they have like a direct translation, because here, when we talk about amparo, legally, it is a legal concept where when a person has encountered a situation that violates their fundamental human rights, they go to that constitutional protection. Yes, they ask for constitutional protection, and they're like, they put in constitutional protection, or
sounds like asylum.
Okay. I don't
It's like a
know.
legally protected status.
That protects my human fundamental rights.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be close enough. It may not be exact.
Well, let's say constitutional rights protection action. That is like the linear definition of it, okay? But Alejandra calls 598 recurso de amparo, meaning it is like a protection. It is like a grid that I can count on when everything is breaking, that I can lean on. Yeah, it is a frequency that is going to support me when something else is failing or breaking. And that's what she calls 598, frecuencia de amparo, which is the frequency of Uruguay. Okay? And that is the frequency that we find in the wheat in the 10 of the 10 of 2026. Now, on the 10 of the 10 of 2025, the wheat, we had 58585. And it's also in lap 18 of 2025 when we had this update, okay? Now, the reading of this is the mind from the left to the right has a private port. See? Okay. This is like high technicality. We need to be hyper focused to follow every single detail, okay? But she says in relation to this, okay, the wheat on the 10th of the 10th, 2025, she says, to be able to administrate my own position inside the unified field, I have to be able to take its variables, the variables of the unified field, and inject them into my own programs. Yes, that's why we talked a lot about the radar. I don't want it all to be radar. I don't want it all to be preference, because I'm going to lose my own capacity to administrate my own position inside the field. So it is not a good business to do that. Now, I think she jumps to that. What she jumps to Uruguay, and I think she doesn't mention it here, but in the past program, she talked about the wheat on the 10 of the 10 of 2026, where we can find Uruguay's code. So then she goes to the date of the first constitution of Uruguay to the day of the recording of the program, and we also find year 1582. Okay, so the first constitution of Uruguay was on the 18th of July of 1830. Okay, and so we have 6682229. That is the solar day. So frecuencia de amparo. It is the frequency of backup, we could say. I'm going to find a better translation, but for now, we're going to say the frequency of like backup. Because it is the one that provides me with the update in real time of everything. It provides me with the update of everything in real time. So it anticipates me. It anticipates me to what the unified field is going to require of me. It is like a really useful frequency. The administration of the update of everything. So it's going to be anticipating me. So Alejandra's days of life on the day of the recording, 20672, which is the code of Antarctica. Antarctica is like the reading in LGC of that is where all of the collective memories are. Okay, like the recorder or the keeping of the collective memories, which is why all of these individuals are moving or wanting to appropriate La Patagonia. Yes, because it's really close. Like they're gonna have access to Antarctica. So they want to control 972 and they want to control 276 as well. Sorry. 672 is Antarctica's code. Okay. Antarctica is what has the recordings of the collective memory of the planet. Now, what we're doing here is an interdimensional development of the space-temporal consciousness. That's what we're doing here. Always, yes, shelter. Shelter is a good word too for amparo. The frequency of shelter, or but Alejandra calls it amparo, but it's like it has to do very much with anticipation. Yes, our capacity to update update when everything, because everything is so dynamic. So we have to be constantly like having the capacity to administrate those updates that are coming our way constantly, right? The field is mutating constantly. Okay, so the day of the final of the World Cup, the 19th of the 7th, 19th of July, which is code 200. 19th of July is all of the 9th orbitals are se están jugando, are being put into play. Like all of the 9th orbitals are being put into play in the same instant. Okay, that is like the importance of that date. Now, the 9th orbital is the one that anticipates me from the interstellar environment or area. We've talked about this. So my task is to create the solar code to normalize all of that and then inhabit that inside the solar code, inside the unified field. That's why we want to learn the concepts in clave de sol, so that we are able to do that. Yeah. Because remember, what is normal or natural is what the solar code has nativized internally in the local area. And all of the irregularities that we see have to do with the opposite of that. Now, if I act ahead of time, like when someone makes a goal fuera de lugar, and someone like the guy brings out the little flag, and they're like, oh no, that goal is annulled. How do you call that, Jeff? Like when the goal is annulled because the player is ahead.
Yeah, that one I'm not sure. I mean, it's saying it doesn't
like
count.
they call it, they bring out a little flag because the player that made the goal was ahead of the defense of the other
Is it
team.
like a foul?
Well, it's called fuera de lugar in Spanish. Yeah, out of place, out of position,
Yeah.
out of position. Okay, so if that is like an out of position, if I want to pull an occurrence without creating it the solar code, then I'm going to find irregularities in the solar code, okay? So we are regulating all of these things. Now imagine if we were able to fix the solar code first and then fix the position. Yeah, because we like there's still so many people trying to fix the position, and they're focused in fixing the position. But if we fix the solar code first, we like the position just rearranges because we're fixing it from another instance that is more, there is like it's more inclusive. Yes, because we're not just on the preference, we are including many more things. So if we were able to fix the solar code first and then the position, we wouldn't have all these earthquakes. The thing is that the players are still very much distracted from their cosmic role and very much entertained with the memorials of the container and entertained with the social consciousness. We are distracted from our cosmic role. So the idea is that slowly we the ones that are interested in this start to leave a little bit like the memorials and the social consciousness over there and focus more on that cosmic role if we want to grow on that. The third dimension is artificial. It has nothing natural of it. This scenario where we have the past and the future, like the past in the back and the future in the front, that's artificial. We have the experience of living that, and we experience that as natural, but it's not. because the quality of the code of the solar code doesn't let us see the intersections between, like we see a flow, everything is flowing. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have experience with psychedelics, but like in my young years I did, and you can see that, but the quality of the solar code doesn't we are not able to see it, to perceive that. Okay, the thing is that if we are experiencing with that and we don't have an interpretation, well, if we have solar consciousness, we don't need that. But now imagine if you are taking psychedelics but you have no notion, like no interdimensional technical construction, it is like really easy to get confused. Yeah, because the interpretation of that is going to be whatever. So that is what we call energy, like the flow of the code and what we perceive as natural. That is what we call energy. Yes, the flow of the code. That is what we perceive as natural. Okay, the final of the World Cup was on the 8th day of lap 13. This is the wheat 58867 on that day. And we find again the 57, okay? 7557 containing 886, which is the code of Taiwan. Okay, we're very close to event 75, and 886 is the code of Taiwan. And Taiwan has this situation of intelligent hardware. Now, she's saying all of the conditions are there for the execution of global manipulation. All of the conditions for the execution of global manipulation are there to be executed in Apparatus 507. All the conditions to dominate the gravitational positions inside the collective memory are there. But she says, I am offering the capacity to recreate the update of the 76 platform. 6776, yeah? Foundational. That's the foundational aspect. So there's an offer, because if we didn't have this, we would be going to extreme levels of manipulation. So, all of these things with AI and all of these things with these people that, are focused on that, the way that I interpret that is like, that is where we were going. Like they are showing us where we were headed. But there's another opportunity. Like the risk is there, of course. I'm not saying that it is not happening anymore. I mean, the risk is there, but there's also this other opportunity. She talks about, she is in San Rafael, inside Argentina. And the code of that is 260 because she changed her car. So she bought a new car. So she's saying, okay, something that happened to her while she was buying this car, okay? She's saying, when you are really focused in dealing with the conflicts that the solar code has, then the unified field gives you these winks. Yeah, these winks, like saying you're doing good. Yeah. And it's Jesus. I've had some of those. I'm not saying too many. It's not as many as you guys could think. But when I have experienced those winks, I'm like, no, this is not real. Like I'm going crazy. Like I'm going insane. It's really hard to believe, but it's like so evident and so grotesquely obvious that you can't deny it. So I have no other choice than to say, okay, it's a wink. It's a little wink. Okay, so what she's talking about here, because we've made it, I would like to go through more detail here, but we have been here for a while. What she's saying here is that she was standing in front of a street that was called Marcelo T. de Alvear, between the streets Libertad and Peru. Okay, so it's freedom On one side, Peru on the other side, and there was a street called Marcelo T. de Alvear. Marcelo T. de Alvear was a president of Argentina born on October 4th. Okay. So what Alejandra's saying is we are creating independence, we are creating autarchy inside the unified field. So on one side, I'm going to have freedom, and on the other side, I'm going to have restriction. And the way that the street was running, it was running from liberty to Peru. Peru is restriction. Why? Because we're talking about the preservation of the anatomic. Peru has to do with the preservation of the anatomic instance. And the anatomic instance is the one that has the most regulations and the most limitations. So that road, that street was running from Liberty towards Peru, Marcelo T. de Alvear. Okay? So what Peru does is it restricts, she restricts liberty, because the third dimension needs that liberty to be restricted. Like it provides a certain, liberty, yes, but it is not infinite as it is in the primary unfoldment. Yes, there are regulations, there are restrictions. So this is what she's saying. Okay, so that's the street. Marcelo T. de Alvear, we have that. And then 2, Editorial Duncan is also on that street. And then she says, when you follow that street all the way to the end, it jumps into the street of Charcas, which is her native street where she grew up. So that's like a lot of convergences. Like I said, there's a lot of detail here. We could spend a lot of time looking at this more closely, more slowly. But it's just so much. It's like so much detail, really. Now, if you have the logic that belongs to the unified field, which is what we should all have, because we are all implemented inside a collective scenario, we should all have the logic that belongs to the unified field. The thing is that we don't, or we didn't. I think the conditions are changing for that to be more collective, more massive. So here she just talks about technicalities in relation to Trujillo, Peru, which is Trujillo, Peru is a territory where the independence of Peru took place, like the first place where it took place. The first place where it took place, the independence of Peru in Trujillo, which is 44. Now, event 44 in Peru, one of the things that were discussed in the event was it's 44 for the Earth because we're talking about all of the designs, but for us, that's 11. Yes, all of the designs for us, it's 11, but for the Earth, it's 44. Yeah, so Trujillo, Peru was 44. So Alejandra is like, why doesn't the capital of Peru become Trujillo? No, it had to be Lima because Lima is 1. Yes, it had to modulate. It had to modulate to a different frequency. It couldn't stay in 44. Okay. And then Lima, remember the nodes diagram? We have L, external source. IM is a resource that's going to provide support to me inside the unified field. Okay. La is the interpreter. So we have the interpreter, LA, and then we have IM in the middle. The interpreter needs to be very well nourished. And then we have that other resource in IM that's going to provide support to me. What is this all about? This is all about increasing our capacity to manage our anatomical projection, our anatomical position inside the unified field. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, that's what this whole thing is all about. So everything is connected, and only as solar consciousness are we going to be able to share one same mind. And we can only share one same mind at the level of the subatomic scale. And that means if we share a mind at a subatomic scale, then that means that we're going to be playing a fair game. We're always going to be playing a fair game. There's going to be no tricks, no dirty work. There's only going to be elegance because we're going to be sharing a mind at the level of the subatomic. That's what we're doing, attempting to do, sharing one mind at a subatomic level. So no more tricks, more transparency. So, and we're going to be noticing how much transparency there is. Yeah. How much transparency, how much authenticity there is out there. Because if we're not sharing a mind, a collective, or working with this construction of a solar collective culture, then the systems that are going to be out there are going to be shady, not very transparent. Yeah. So we're going to be good at detecting this, like the levels of transparency, because the unified field follows strictly the solar code, and the solar code follows strictly the algorithm of the express universe. So all of our belongings are synchronized. Now, my second favorite part, or my other favorite part, I put little fires here because I loved it. This will be the tendency. The tendency will be this transparency, the tendency to transparency, to a fair, clean game where all of our belongings are synchronized. And what Alejandra's doing is a cultural introduction to the solar code, to the solar consciousness. Cultural introduction to the solar consciousness. But solar consciousness at a technical scale, not symbolic, okay? Technical. And when we talk about technical scale, we're talking about creation of solar code, not astrology. Like the symbolic part is already covered. We don't need any more of that, okay? But for this, there needs to be another level of connection, okay? Okay, we're gonna stop there, you guys, because there's like 2-3 more details, but the next program which is tomorrow, lab 14, the 28th of July. And the 28th of July is the independence of Peru. So that's why she talked about independence and liberty and Peru and all of that, right? So all of this is very volatile, but the data is what becomes volatile. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like when we are working with data today, for example, and we're looking at it and it's like, wow. And then we look back at that 2 years later and the data is like, but the concepts are the ones that remain. Okay, so to counteract the volatility, that's where we need so much like the concepts to be more robust. Yeah, the data is the one that volatilizes, and the concepts are the ones that remain. Okay, the concepts are the ones that provides us with more anchor, more powerful anchor. But also she says the concept assists us, but the compound of data, of structured data, is what allows us to also construct a concept. Yeah, so we work with both things. You guys, wow, that was long and dense. I didn't realize when I was working through it, I didn't feel it as dense, but then doing this, I was like, wow, yeah, that's a lot. So I'm going to stop the recording, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and see you soon I don't know when I'm going to see you again because I am traveling. But we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you, guys.